Hello everyone, welcome to Red Cave Universe. My name is Aditya. I work as an analyst in the industry for last 5 years. We are building a community of people who believe in democratizing education, and this mission starts with Excel, and soon we will add more learning paths to this. So stay tuned. Today we are in the second part of the basics, and we will learn a few basic things about Excel which will be helpful when we are learning formulas and doing further analysis on Excel. Right. So there are 5 questions as of now in front of us. The first question is how to filter the data. Second question is how to merge cells, how to freeze pane. Fourth is how to put a data validation. And fifth one is how to see a formula execution. We'll start with the first one, how to filter the data. If you receive a data set which is very huge and you want to see, for example, we have this data set in front of us and which is roughly around 51 records, but we want to know how many product IDs are there, right? And what would be the easiest way? We could just filter the data and see that how many records are there. So what we could do is we could just go into home tab, into the right, just next to my face window, you can see a sort filter. You can click over there and just say filter. You see that there are drop downs which are populated on the column headers. You can click on the drop down for the product ID and you will see there are three, 1, 2, 3. So there are total three product ID. So what is the basic shortcut for this is Control Shift L. You have to press Control Shift and press L. So now let's say there is one more column. You do Control Shift, and if you do Control Shift L now, where it will be? It will be on the first record. But if you want to put it on here, right? So what we will do is we'll do Control Shift L. We'll select that row and we'll say Control Shift L again. So wherever you want to apply, and the filter will be applied till the range is there. So let's suppose that this range has some blank values, and if we filter this data now, it will not select the data from row 7 onwards. It will just show the data into filter for first to 4. If you click on here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So Excel understand this is the array that it has to filter. So right. So for that matter, just always check whether you have blank or not in your data and your data is continuous in at least one of the columns, right? And then select that array and then put a filter. So what we could do, we could remove this line or we could select this data. So what we'll do is we'll select this data and we'll put a filter. Now, if you see that we have everything, right? Please do remember this part, because a lot of times we tend to forget this and then we see that the filter is not applied properly and we tend to make mistakes. The next question is how to merge cells. What do merge mean? Merge means combining, right? So let's say that you want to write a text into the Excel, and because you have created a report, or you want to create a header for that report. So let's say just I want to say that my entire name and what is my designation is, right? So for that, if I write it in one cell, I am Aditya Kulkarni and I work as financial planning analyst, right? So this is very huge information for one cell. So what we will do is we will merge. We will select number of cells till the time it's going there. And we'll go come over here. We will say merge and center, or merge and across. So merge and center means your second text will be aligned centrally, and merge across it will start from the start, right? And you could just merge them. And now this is just one cell, G6. There is no H6, there is no I6, there is no G6, right? So if you just click on this, it will be always G6. So when from which cell you have started, that will become the cell reference for it. What is the next question? Next question is freeze panes. Freeze panes means what? Let's say you have multiple line items, and as you go towards the end, you will not see the first row header, right? What do you want to make this first row header freeze?
So what is the next question? So our next question is how to freeze panes. What does freeze pane means? Freeze pane means that as you go down to the data, you don't want to miss the headers, right? Or column information, because that is most important thing that you want to retrieve as you move you around your data. This data is small, so you don't know, right? There are just three columns. Let's just think about, let's say there are 15, 20 columns. You won't remember which column is what, right? So let's say I want to go to the 51th row, but I want to still see what is the column header. So how do I do that? So basically you have to go to the first row. You will go to view, which is at the top, and you will say freeze panes, and then you will say freeze top row. So when I want to see just the column headers, I will say top row. If I want to see column headers and as well as the row headers for few of the records, I will say uh, for the first freeze column, or then I want to use the combination of both the top row and the first column, or second column or third column, I will say freeze panes. So on that front, I will just stop at one particular cell and then I'll move around. So I'll show you one by one. So first, let's say freeze top row. If I click on this, and if I go to the 51th row, I can still see the first row as my headers. This is useful when you want to know on which data point you are. Now let's go to this and let's see freeze first column. Okay, we'll go to the first record and we will say freeze first column. Now, if you see, the line has been drawn on the first column. If I move towards right, the first column always will be there, no matter how far I go to the right, right? First column will always be there. Now, if I go far towards the right, if I go far beyond, you don't see that the first row is not freeze, right? Now I can just freeze the first column. Either I can freeze the first column or I can freeze the first row. Now, to avoid that, what we can do, we'll click here and freeze pane. Now I will say now freeze panes. Now if you see it, it is showing as a blue that the first column and first row, which are above, will be freezed in this scenario. And if you click over here, it will freeze first row and two columns. So wherever you place your cell, the freeze will happen towards the left and above that cell. So let's say freeze pane. And now if you see, the line is drawn horizontally at the first row and vertically at the first column. Now, if I go towards entirety of right, I still see the serial number in first column. But if I go down, I still see the serial number. And you could see there is another dark line. So that's how the freeze works. We'll do this. I'll just move the unfreeze pane. So let's just do it for, let's say here, revenue, and now we will freeze the pane. And if you go over here, it will always be that, right? That upper portion towards that cell in the left corner will always be there, right? So that's how the freeze works, and you can just remove that freeze by using unfreeze panes window. Next question is how to use data validation. So what is data validation? So generally there are a few data sets where we want to make manual entries and we don't want people to make mistakes in those entries. So let's say there are three minion characters, which are Bob, Kevin, and last one is Stuart. And we want them to type this every time exactly as seen, right? But due to human tendencies, we might see that it could be BOB, or we could see it as BOB. There could be variations, and we don't want that. What we will do is we will use a data validation feature of Excel where we could give them as a drop down and they just have to select it. They don't have to type it. What we will do is we will go to data, and here you could see there is a tab called data validation. You could click on that and you say data validation. Instead of any value, you could say just list, right? And they need to know the source. So when we select list, we need to provide them where the list is. We'll click on this and we will select these three things, J8 to J10. This will be fixed. And if you see the dollar sign means that they have freezed these cells. The list won't move beyond these cells. You just hit enter, you'll hit OK. Drop down against H8, which has created. We just have to click on drop down and we can select anything. So that's how data validation comes in place and helps us into the Excel. What is the last question? How to see a formula execution? Okay, first we will need to write a formula, right? So we will just write a bit of complex formula so that we know how to use it. We will just write equal to if revenue, so it's product ID is equal to 1, then revenue, else we could say 0, right? So now drop down, it will just give us the form values wherever the condition is satisfied of product ID being 1. So now if I want to know whether this is getting successfully executed or not, how I could do it? I could go to the formula tab and there is function called evaluate formula. You could just click on that. Now your formula is in this evaluation tab. You can evaluate one step at a time. So let's say we want to evaluate first whether B2 equal to 1 is satisfied or not. Let's say evaluate. It says B2 has a value of 1. It will give 1. Now evaluate. It is true. So when it is true, it should draw value from C2. So if you click on evaluate, it will give you value from C2. Now let's just evaluate this formula. Let's just say evaluate. Now it will say 2 equal to 1. Now this is false, so it has to reproduce a value which is provided for the false, and that is 0. So if you evaluate false, and it will return 0 now, correct? So that's it. These are basic things about Excel that you should know before starting with formulas, because these will help you understand and make your journey in Excel very simple.
If these videos are adding values to your learning goal, please hit like, subscribe for more content like this so that we release videos on every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And also share your thoughts and questions in the comment section, and do share this video so that people like you can reach to this video and learn from it. So thank you.